President Trump set to officially announce his nominee for the Supreme Court in just a few hours, with multiple sources telling Fox News that he is expected to name Amy Coney Barrett as his pick. David Spunt is live from the Supreme Court. David.
Hi, Molly. Whoever he picks, it will shift the majority 6-3, a conservative majority on the court, what that means for the future, and a look at Judge Amy Coney Barrett's credentials. Next.
I want to take a closer look at his expected pick. Judge Amy Coney Barrett. David Spunt in front of the Supreme Court with a little bit more on her personal background and her legal record that people will be scrutinizing over the next few weeks. Hi, David.
Leland, good afternoon. Since the passing of Justice Antonin Scalia in 2016, conservatives have craved a conservative-leaning justice on the Supreme Court, one that is a textualist, one that is in the mold of Justice Antonin Scalia. Well, Leland, they may get their wish today if it is indeed Amy Coney Barrett as the president's pick. The reason, because she is in his legal mold. She actually clerked for him here at the Supreme Court back in 1998. She's known as a textualist, someone that interprets the Constitution as written. That's what many conservatives want to hear. Now, just about 9 months after President Trump took the oath of office in September 2017, Coney Barrett got a memorable taste of Washington, D.C. during her confirmation hearing for the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals in Chicago. At that hearing, and you'll see it right now, she fended off attacks about how her faith would play into landmark cases. Listen here.
And you have no personal beliefs as to whether Roe was correctly decided.
I'm sure that every nominee before you has beliefs about that precedent and many other, but all nominees are united in their belief that what they think about a precedent should not bear on how they would decide cases.
Barrett is an avid Catholic. The Senate confirmed Barrett 55-43. 3 Democrats voted to put her on the appeals court bench. Former Indiana Senator Joe Donnelly, West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, and Virginia Senator Tim Kaine, who was the VP for Hillary Clinton back in 2016. Now, Barrett was rumored to be a frontrunner for a spot on the high court in 2018 when President Trump personally interviewed her. He ultimately chose now Justice Brett Kavanaugh instead. A Louisiana native and mother of 7, Coney Barrett and her family call South Bend, Indiana home. Leland, if confirmed by the Senate, and she is expected to be confirmed if you ask Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Judiciary Chairman Lindsey Graham, she would be the 5th woman to sit on the Supreme Court of the United States. And we're just really a few hours away. Big day here in Washington, really around the country, because this will have impacts for decades to come. Leland.
Now, Jonathan Swan over at Axios reported that all the way back during the Kavanaugh hearings, President Trump said he was saving Amy Coney Barrett for this seat and this time. David Spunt at the Supreme Court. David, thank you. Molly?
Thank you, Leland.
And for a preview of what we can expect as the Supreme Court fight heads into the Senate, let's bring in Constitutional Accountability Center President Elizabeth Wydra and the First Liberty Institute's Executive General Counsel, Hiram Sassert. Thank you both for joining us here today. Here we are in the cusp of this very major announcement just a few hours from now. The leading contenders, sources have told Fox News Channel that it is expected to be Amy Coney Barrett. So we're just waiting for that officially to get underway. And John Roberts has reported we could potentially see a vote in the Senate as soon as October 28th. That is just days before the election. Do we expect the wheels to turn as swiftly as they potentially could? Hiram, your thoughts?
Well, you know, this is a pretty historically, there's a lot of precedent history for presidents nominating and justices being confirmed to their seats during presidential election cycles. I mean, this is probably the most analogous to the 1956 seat that came open when Justice Sherman Minton tendered his resignation due to health reasons on September the 7th. But President Eisenhower actually engaged in a much more aggressive move than President Trump is here, because he actually made a recess appointment of Justice Brennan, did not have any kind of Senate confirmation process until after he won re-election in 1957. So I think President Trump here is being a little more cautious in approaching this in a more judicious way than probably President Eisenhower did with the Sherman Minton vacancy.
Well, certainly also as well that whoever the individual is, potentially, Ms. Barrett, we shall see, will begin to meet with senators soon. Is there anything that Democrats who might want to slow the wheels could potentially do, Elizabeth?
Well, first, I just want to say, 1956 was a long time ago, and this is not the way that in the modern era we have gone about Supreme Court nominations. And not only is it an election year, we are in the middle of the election. People are already casting their votes in early voting states. So the people are already in the process of having their say, and that makes it very different from any other nomination. Secondly, this is a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court. We don't want to do a rush job. And while Amy Coney Barrett was put on the Court of Appeals 3 years ago, she has a substantial record since then that it is the Senate's duty to advise and consent on to the president, and they need to do the proper job of going through the hearings if they choose to have them this year. And that's an entirely other question of whether or not it's appropriate when the legitimacy of the Supreme Court is at stake to have a hearing while the people are voting.
Yeah, there are very few rules, though, that have been, set down there in stone in the Constitution regarding exactly how the Senate is set to go about it. So we'll see how it unfolds this time. But most recently, we've seen things get pretty contentious, including, take a look at this exchange. This is the Senator Kamala Harris, of course, now. She is the vice presidential nominee on the Democratic side. Take a listen to this exchange with now Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh.
So are you willing to have them do it?
No witness who was there supports that I was there.
Okay, I'm going to take that as a no, and we can move on. How do you reconcile your statement about a conspiracy against you? Do you agree that it is possible for men to both be friends with some women and treat other women badly? Did you watch Dr. Ford's testimony?
I did not. I plan to. I plan to.
Thank you.
So some pretty tough grilling there. Hiram, do you expect to see the same with whoever it is that President Trump nominates, potentially Amy Coney Barrett?
Well, obviously with Judge Barrett, she's already been through a grilling already, and able to come out of that and be confirmed in a bipartisan way. She obviously, as Elizabeth pointed out, she has an extensive and strong record. And this has been fully vetted already by the Senate. And also, this President Trump, has put a substantial effort in vetting these potential nominees. In fact, putting out a public list. This has been the most transparent and the most robust vetting by any president of potential nominees. And so I think the record is pretty clear. I think there's not a lot of new information for people to be had. So I would assume that the Senate would just want to go through their process and that this would be fairly quick, because there's really not a lot of new information for them to make a different decision than they already did in a bipartisan way, supporting Judge Barrett if that is the nominee last time.
We are running out of time, so I want to give Elizabeth a final answer here as we're heading into these confirmation hearings. Your thoughts on what the nominee may face?
So the difference between an appellate court judge and a Supreme Court judge is that a lower court judge follows precedent. The Supreme Court sets it. And we've already heard from Judge Barrett that she disagrees with the rulings from the Supreme Court repeatedly upholding the constitutionality of the Affordable Care Act. And that is the last thing we need, is someone on the bench who will strike down health care when the American people need it, crucially in the time of a pandemic.
Yeah, this makes it all the more interesting as we head into this election, and all of the folks out there across America thinking about who they'll be voting for. Elizabeth Wydra and Hiram Sasser, thank you so much. We appreciate it.